Hello, and welcome to DataSunrise Functionality Demonstration. This demo includes three simple scenarios: database firewall, dynamic data masking, and database activity monitoring. Here's a website created for the demo. It displays content of two PostgreSQL tables. It includes names, addresses, emails, credit card numbers, and passwords. I will use this website to show you the features of our product. First, I need to define what database DataSunrise should protect. So I enter the configuration section of the web UI. Here you can see a list of all existing database profiles. I've created a profile for my PostgreSQL database. So let's take a look at its settings. The settings include the profile's logical name, database type, connection details, and a list of existing proxies or sniffers. To use all DataSunrise functions, I need to deploy it as a proxy between the database server and client application server. In this particular case, between the web server and the PostgreSQL database. I have created a proxy for the database and configured the website to connect to the database through the DataSunrise proxy. Having created a proxy, I can start using DataSunrise features. Let's start with the database firewall. First, let's assume that it is required to prevent user attempts to change the customer's names. To do this, I need to create a data security rule, a security policy, which prohibits editing of the first name and last name columns. I enter the data security section of the web UI. You can see a list of existing rules here. It's empty now, so I create a new rule. In the main settings subsection, I specify a database I want to protect. It's my PostgreSQL database. In the Actions subsection, I select an action the rule performs when triggered. I select Block to block prohibited queries. And now I need to define what kind of queries should be treated as prohibited. So I go to Traffic Filtering Settings. In the Filter Sessions subsection, I select database users whose queries I want to process. In the Filter SQL Statements subsection, I configure the filtering to treat all queries aimed at data modification as prohibited. Then I specify the database columns to be protected. These are first name and last name columns. In the Schedule subsection, you can set schedules to enable and disable the current rule at a predefined time. In the Notifications subsection, you can configure notifications of concerned parties on rule triggering. Depending on how you've configured it, DataSunrise notifies subscribers via email or instant messenger. I can save the settings. And now, let's try to change the customers' names. As you can see, my attempt to modify the protected columns is blocked by the firewall. It says that the query is blocked. Since I've configured the firewall to protect only certain columns, I'm still able to modify other columns. Now let's proceed to dynamic data masking. First, let's assume that it's required to obfuscate the credit card numbers, passwords, and emails. To do this, I need to create three masking rules for card, email, and password columns respectively. I enter the data masking section of the web UI. Here's a list of existing rules. As you can see, I've created the required rules, so let's take a look at their settings. In general, the settings are similar to data security rules. I've specified the database in the main settings. In the filter sessions, I've defined the database users for which I want to obfuscate the database output. In the next subsection, I've specified the column to be masked. It is the card column, and in the drop-down list below, I've selected a masking method to apply. It is a credit card number masking algorithm. I've created a similar rule for passwords. Specified the database. Specified the password column. I've selected another masking method, fixed string. It replaces the column's values with this predefined placeholder string. Along with built-in masking methods I use for previous rules, you can create your own custom functions for masking. I've created such a function for emails. Since my PostgreSQL tables are linked by email column, this column is the primary key, I need to specify the columns from both tables. In the drop-down list, I've selected Custom Functions Masking Method and specified the function to call. Now let's check the table. As you can see, the values in the card column were masked. Password values were replaced with the placeholder string, and emails were replaced with some random values. Now we can proceed to data audit. Let's assume that I need to monitor all attempts to access my table. To configure monitoring, I enter the Data Audit section of the Web UI. Here's the audit rule I've created. Its settings are almost similar to other types of rules. I've configured the traffic filtering to audit all queries directed to both my PostgreSQL tables. The rule was running all the time I was showing other features. So let's check the auditing results. I enter Events subsection. Here you can see a list of auditing events. Let's check details of one of the events. Event details include query's SQL code, basic information on the query, session information including database username, name of the client application used to send the query, application's hostname, and session duration. Below you can see query results. DataSunrise audits not only queries, but also query results. On default, audit data is saved into an integrated SQLite database. You can use also an external database such as PostgreSQL, MySQL, or Redshift to store this data. And at last, auditing data can be exported to an external SIM application with syslog messages. Thank you for watching this demo and for your interest in DataSunrise.